open on the void of space. Not an empty void, but a teeming, crowded one. A galaxy in flames. Countless stars shine, but their light is sickly, failing to pierce the overwhelming darkness between them. This is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the God Emperor of mankind has sat immobile on his golden throne of Terra. He is a rotting carcass, a withered skeleton kept alive by arcane technology and the daily sacrifice of thousands of psychers. His Imperium is the worst, most bloody regime imaginable. It is a universe of war, ignorance, and terror. And in this universe of endless threats, there are watchers in the shadows. They are the holy orders of the Emperor's Inquisition. They are the reason you should fear the dark. Think of the Imperium of Man as a vast, decaying body. The Adeptus Terra, the Administratum, the Imperial Guard, the countless other departments, they are the right hand. They are the visible, grinding bureaucracy that keeps the body moving day by day through sheer momentum. The Inquisition is the left hand. It is the hidden hand, the one that holds the scalpel, the dagger, and the torch. It does what the right hand cannot, what it must not see. Its duty is not to govern, but to survive. To ensure the survival of humanity no matter the cost. An inquisitor is more than just a secret police officer or a witch hunter. They are a force of nature given human form. Their authority, symbolized by the rosette they carry, does not come from a general or a planetary governor. By ancient tradition, it comes directly from the emperor himself. There is no hierarchy to which they must answer. They are beholden only to their own conscience and the judgment of their peers. With that rosette, an inquisitor can requisition anything and anyone. A lowly clerk, a regiment of the Astra Militarum, an entire battle fleet of the Imperial Navy, even the legendary Space Marine chapters. No one, from the poorest underhive scum to a High Lord of Terra, is beyond their scrutiny. To refuse them is heresy. This power is absolute and terrifying because it is necessary. An inquisitor labors for nothing less than the eternal endurance of the human race. This is a cold-hearted pragmatism that eclipses even the faith of the most devout priest. In their eyes, tradition is irrelevant. A solar decade of blameless service counts for nothing. Ignorance is not an excuse. They understand a brutal truth. It is better for 1 billion blameless souls to perish alongside a single guilty fugitive than to allow a threat to endanger the rest of humanity. They are the arbiters of a truth so absolute it can condemn worlds to death. But who are these men and women? They are as varied as the threats they face. Some are fiery young zealots, their eyes burning with conviction. Others are hoary old veterans, their minds and bodies scarred by terrors they have fought for Terran centuries. Some wear ostentatious robes of office, while others shun all trappings of status, clad in the simple worn leather of a detective. They care little for morality and nothing for the Imperium's labyrinthine laws, except when it serves their purpose. They are, in every way that matters, apart from the rest of mankind. With a mandate so broad, how does the Inquisition organize itself? The answer is through loose, voluntary associations known as Ordos. The most powerful and enduring of these are the 3 Ordos Majores, each a pillar defending a different front in humanity's eternal war. The Ordo Malleus, the Demon Hunters. They face the threat from beyond. The Ordo Malleus is dedicated to hunting the most insidious enemy of all, the demonic legions of chaos. These are not mere aliens or heretics. They are manifestations of the warp, reality's nightmare-given form. Theirs is the oldest and most secret war, fought in the shadows against creatures that can twist minds and shatter souls. To stand against them requires not just strength, but immense will and purity. The mere knowledge of demons is a contagion in itself, so the Ordo Malleus operates in absolute secrecy, often purging entire populations who have witnessed what man was not meant to see. Theirs is the burden of fighting an enemy that uses memory and sight as its weapons. The Ordo Xenos, the alien hunters. They face the threat from without. The galaxy is infested with countless alien species, each a potential extinction-level event for humanity. The Ordo Xenos investigates and eliminates alien influence, from the ravenous hive fleets of the Tyranids to the brutal Waifs of the Orcs and the subtle, corrupting plots of the Drukhari. They are the shield against the foreign and the unknown, ever vigilant for the Xenos taint. They understand that not all threats charge with a roar. Some slither in with a whisper, offering technology or power in exchange for the soul of a world. The Ordo Hereticus, the witch hunters, they face the threat from within. Founded in the aftermath of the Age of Apostasy, the Ordo Hereticus has a grim duty: to police humanity itself. They root out heresy, mutation, and the dangerous influence of rogue psychers, human souls with uncontrollable psychic power that can become gateways for demons. Most dangerously, they watch the very organizations of the Imperium, including the ecclesiarchy itself, for any sign of corruption or disloyalty. Their enemy is the traitor, the cultist, and the mutant who wears a human face, who lives next door, who preaches from a pulpit. They know that the most dangerous enemy is the one you once called brother. To aid them in their endless war, each major Ordo has a chamber militant, a dedicated military force of unparalleled skill. The Ordo Malleus commands the Grey Knights, a secret chapter of Space Marines forged during the Horus Heresy. Every single Grey Knight is a potent psyker, and in 10,000 years, not one has ever fallen to the corruption of chaos. They are the ultimate weapon against the demonic. The Ordo Xenos calls upon the Death Watch, an elite chapter of Space Marines drawn from dozens of other chapters. They are the alien fighting specialists, their expertise and unique weaponry tailored to destroy any Xenos threat. The Ordo Hereticus is supported by the Adepta Sororitas, or the Sisters of Battle. These warrior women are known for their unshakable faith in the Emperor, a faith so potent it can manifest as miracles on the battlefield, making them the perfect tool for burning out heresy and witchcraft. The Inquisition is not a monolithic bloc. With no formal hierarchy, its internal politics are a seething web of rivalry and bitterness. The most profound division is not between the Ordos, but across a philosophical fault line separating two overarching ideologies: the Puritans and the Radicals. The Puritans are the conservatives. They believe the status quo must be upheld and that dabbling with the forces of chaos or Xenos technology is heresy in all forms, to be shunned under any circumstance. But even among Puritans there are factions. The monodominants are the most extreme. To them, all identified enemies must be purged without reprieve. They are infamous for their frequent use of exterminatus, believing the sacrifice of millions of innocent lives is a worthy price for the complete destruction of the enemy. The Amalathians are the moderate core. They advocate for cooperation between imperial organizations and believe the Emperor has a grand plan that they must uphold by maintaining stability at all costs. On the other side are the Radicals, who argue that battling the enemy justifies all means, even using its own weapons against it. They are the ones who will wield a demon-forged blade or make a pact with the Xenos to defeat a greater threat. Their path is a slippery slope into damnation, and their factions are just as varied. The Xanthites are the most notorious. They seek to actively harness the power of chaos for humanity's sake, using sorcery and bound daemon hosts as weapons, believing they can fight fire with fire. The Recongregationists believe the Imperium has become terminally corrupt and must be torn down and rebuilt, even if it means aiding anti-imperial cults to spark revolution. This ideological chasm means the Inquisition's greatest enemy is often itself. An inquisitor hunting a demonic cult may find themselves simultaneously hunted by a Puritan colleague who believes their methods have become too radical. This internal strife is not a weakness but a built-in, brutal form of self-policing in an organization where corruption is an ever-present danger. Where did such a powerful organization begin? The truth is shrouded in 10 millennia of myth, exaggeration, and deliberate lies. In fact, one branch of the Inquisition, the Ordo Originatus, exists solely to uncover the past, while another, the Ordo Redactus, works to obscure it. But most legends agree on one story. It was the final days of the Horus heresy. The emperor's favored son Horus had betrayed him, and the galaxy was torn in two. As the traitor armies marched on Terra, the emperor commanded his most trusted servant, Malcador the Sigillite, to find a group of individuals of an inquisitive nature, men and women of unblemished loyalty, determination, and strength of mind. Malcador gathered 12 such persons, 8 loyal space marines who had cast aside their traitorous legions, and 4 mortal lords and administrators. He presented them to the emperor in the depths of the imperial palace. These 4 mortals became the foundational core of the Inquisition's conclaves, while the 8 Astartes would become the genesis of the Grey Knights, the first chamber militant. From this secret meeting in humanity's darkest hour, the Inquisition was born, not as a public institution, but as a last, desperate safeguard. Consider the world of Viridia Prime. A thriving agri-world, its fields feeding a dozen star systems. Its people were faithful, its rulers just. Then a strange lethargy crept over the population. Crops grew twisted and bitter. People began having shared nightmares of a bloated, fly-ridden god. The planetary governor dismissed it as a seasonal malaise. But an Ordo Malleus inquisitor, Caleb of the Amalathians, heard whispers of this and investigated. He did not arrive with trumpets or armies. He came alone, a grim figure in a long coat. Within days he uncovered the truth. A genestealer cult, a vanguard of the alien tyrannid hive mind, had infiltrated the planet's ruling spire, its patriarch whispering its psychic influence into the minds of the populace. The world was a ticking time bomb, destined to be consumed. Caleb faced an impossible choice. He could try to purge the cult, a years-long war that would cost millions of lives and might still fail, allowing the tyrannids to be drawn to the system. Or he could enact the ultimate sanction. He chose. He raised his rosette and spoke a single terrible word into the vox: exterminatus. From orbit, cyclonic torpedoes streaked through the atmosphere. The planet's crust cracked. The oceans boiled. Every man, woman, and child, the faithful and the corrupted alike, were burned to ash. Billions of souls, extinguished in an afternoon. In the cold, silent void, Inquisitor Caleb watched the world die. He did not feel triumph. He did not feel hatred. He felt only the grim, cold certainty that he had saved 100 other worlds from the same fate. He mourned every death, and then he forged on to the next threat, the next darkness. For in the 41st millennium, there is only war, and the Inquisition is the fire that fights it. On the table lies a data slate. Its surface is cracked, but the information within, records of a planetary governor's dealings with a Xenos mercantile guild, is the spark. This single piece of evidence can be interpreted in a dozen ways, and the chosen interpretation will decide the fate of a world. It is a problem of philosophy. For the Inquisition is not a monolith, and its agents are defined as much by their methods as by their authority. The most profound division, the schism that shapes their every action, is between Puritanism and radicalism. The Puritans are the conservatives, the fundamentalists. They believe the Imperium's dogma, its suspicion of the alien and the warp, exists for a reason. To them, the status quo, for all its horrors, is the only bulwark against total annihilation. Dabbling with the enemy's power is not pragmatism. It is the first step on the road to damnation, a betrayal of the very principles they are sworn to uphold. Yet, even among these stalwarts there are factions. The monodominants are the most extreme. Their creed is one of absolute purity through absolute destruction. They see compromise in any form as a cancer. If a world shows even a fractional percentage of mutation or Xenos taint, the monodominant solution is swift, total, and merciless. They are infamous for their frequent and unhesitating use of exterminatus, believing the sacrifice of 1 billion blameless lives is a worthy price for the destruction of a single, irredeemable enemy. The Amalathians represent the moderate core of Puritanism. They believe the emperor has a grand, if inscrutable, plan for humanity, and their role is to maintain the Imperium's stability at all costs. They advocate for cooperation between the Imperium's myriad organizations and are often politically aligned with the Adeptus Terra and the Space Marine chapters of the Imperial foundings. They fight to preserve the Imperium as it is, seeing it as a fragile, necessary fortress in a galaxy of madness. Opposing them are the radicals. They argue that the ancient, dogmatic methods are no longer enough to fight a war that is being lost. They look at the rising tide of chaos, the endless swarms of tyrannids, the resurgent Necron dynasties, and conclude that victory, or even mere survival, demands new weapons. Their mantra is that any method is justified if it ensures humanity's continuation, even if that means using the enemy's own power against them. Their path is a slippery slope into damnation, and their factions are just as varied. The Xanthites are among the most notorious. They actively seek to harness the power of chaos, to fight fire with demonic fire. They practice forbidden sorceries, bind daemon hosts into service, and wield artifacts of immense warp power, believing they can control the uncontrollable for a greater good. To a Puritan, a Xanthite is already a heretic. To a Xanthite, a Puritan is a fool bringing a knife to a gunfight. The Recongregationists take a different, equally dangerous path. They look at the Imperium and do not see a fortress to be preserved, but a terminally corrupt and decaying edifice that must be torn down. They believe that only through revolution, collapse, and rebirth can humanity be saved. They may secretly support anti-imperial cults or foment civil wars, not out of disloyalty, but from a twisted, apocalyptic hope that from the ashes, something stronger can be built. This ideological chasm means the Inquisition's greatest enemy is often itself. An inquisitor hunting a demonic cult may find themselves simultaneously hunted by a Puritan colleague who believes their methods have become too radical. This internal strife is not a bureaucratic weakness. It is a brutal, built-in form of self-policing in an organization where any single member's corruption could doom billions. To enforce their will, Inquisitors command a terrifying arsenal of sanctions and tools, each tailored to the scale of the transgression. For the individual heretic or mutant, the punishments are creative and horrific. Archoflagellation is a common fate, where a criminal is surgically mutilated and psycho-conditioned into a mindless, pain-worshipping combat servitor. Conscription into a penal legion offers a chance at a bloody, short-lived redemption on the front lines of the Imperium's wars. The most grievous of sinners might be bound into a penitent engine, a walking, screaming dreadnought that is both a weapon and a public display of eternal torment. When a single city or region is compromised, an inquisitor can call upon the Ordos Sicarius to deploy the silent, absolute solution of the imperial assassins. A single Kalidas shapeshifter can eliminate a corrupt governor, or an Everzer can become a whirlwind of destruction that purges an entire palace of taint. But the ultimate tool, the last terrible resort, is exterminatus. This is the death of a world. It is not undertaken lightly. With a single command, an inquisitor can order a fleet in orbit to unleash cyclonic torpedoes, virus bombs, or sustained lance bombardment until the planet's atmosphere is ash and its crust is glass. It is the admission of total failure, the confession that the corruption is so deep and so widespread that every single living thing on the planet is forfeit to save the rest of humanity. The Inquisition understands a brutal truth. It is better for 1 billion blameless souls to perish than to allow a threat to endanger 100 billion more. Consider the star system of the Ummah. For 3 generations, it has been a model of piety and production. Its cardinal world, Viridian II, is a pilgrimage site for millions. The Ordo Hereticus had no cause for concern. But Inquisitor Larina, a recongregationist, saw not faith but stagnation. She believed the ecclesiarchy here had made the population soft, complacent, and utterly unprepared for the galaxy's true horrors. She did not come with accusations. She came with a seed of heresy. Using her network of agents, she introduced a suppressed text, the logics of doubt, into the lower spires. It was a gentle text, one that questioned blind obedience and encouraged self-reliance. Her plan was to create a controlled schism, a fire that would burn out the complacency and forge a stronger, more resilient faith. She succeeded too well. The schism was not controlled. The logics were twisted by a charismatic demagogue into the cult of the unfurled mind, which rapidly rejected the imperial creed entirely. Within a year, Viridian II was engulfed in a vicious civil war, its cathedrals becoming fortresses. Larina watched from her ship, her face a mask of grim satisfaction. The purge would be bloody, but the result would be a hardened population, one she could shape. She did not see the other ship until it was alongside hers. It was a sleek, black vessel of the Ordo Malleus. Inquisitor Valerius, an Amalathian Puritan, boarded her bridge. He did not brandish a weapon. He held a data slate detailing her every action, her every planted seed of dissent. "You sought to create a stronger faith, Larina," he stated, his voice devoid of anger. "You have created a gateway for demons of doubt and despair. The entire planet is now a beacon in the warp." Larina argued her case, her voice fierce with conviction. She spoke of the greater good, of the necessary pain of rebirth. Valerius listened, then simply raised his rosette. "By the authority granted to me, I judge you recongregationist, and your methods a threat to the Imperium's soul. You are excommunicate traitores." He did not fire the shot himself. One of his Death Watch Space Marines did. As Larina fell, the last thing she saw was Valerius turning to his Vox officer. He had not come to save her world. He had come to condemn it. The order was given. The cyclonic torpedoes streaked through the atmosphere, and the world of Viridian II and the cult she had created were unmade. The Puritan had used the radical sin as proof of the need for his own final solution. In the Inquisition, there are no clean victories, only varying shades of damnation. There is a war behind the war. While the Imperial Guard holds the line against heretics and the Navy duels with Xenos warships, a far older and more terrible conflict is waged in the silence. This is the war against the primordial annihilator, the ruinous powers, the gods of chaos. Its soldiers are the Ordo Malleus, the demon hunters. And their enemy is not merely flesh and blood, but the very stuff of nightmare given form and purpose. The warp is not a place. It is a dimension, a sea of unreality that exists parallel to our own, its tides fueled by the raw emotion of every sentient being. From this seething ocean of thought and feeling have coalesced sentient malignancies, the dark gods. Khorne, the lord of battle and murder. Tsench, the changer of ways, a master of sorcery and intrigue. Nurgle, the father of plagues and despair. Slaanish, the prince of pleasure and excess. These are not gods as a priest might understand them. They are cosmic predators, and their demonic legions are their teeth and claws. The Ordo Malleus exists for one purpose: to stand between these legions and the material world. Theirs is the most secret of all wars, for their greatest weapon is ignorance. The mere knowledge of chaos is a contagion. To see a demon, to understand its nature, is to risk one's soul. A single whispered truth can unravel a world's faith and open a gateway for the never-born to step through. Therefore, the demon hunters work in absolute secrecy. Their victories are never celebrated. Their defeats are buried under layers of false history and purged records. Often, their most crucial battle is ensuring no one ever knows the battle was fought at all. A demonic incursion is not like an invasion. It is a cancer. It begins with a whisper in the warp, a subtle influence that seeps into the material realm. It might manifest as a charismatic cult leader preaching a new, seductive doctrine. It could be a noble family dabbling with an ancient, forbidden text. It might be an artist whose work becomes unervingly, beautifully blasphemous. The signs are always there, but only a trained Malleus Inquisitor can see the pattern. They are the diagnosticians of the soul, tracking the scent of corruption through the crowded, noisy galaxy. When the cancer becomes a tumor, when a rift is torn open and the demonic host manifests, the Malleus calls upon its chamber militant, the Grey Knights. They are the ultimate answer to the demonic question. The Grey Knights are a chapter of Space Marines, but they are unlike any other. They were not born of the original legions. They were forged in the secret final days of the Horus heresy by the Emperor himself, with Malkador the Sigillite as their regent. Their genocide is rumored to be derived from the Emperor's own biological material, purified of all taint. Their fortress monastery, Titan, is not a world but a moon hidden from all galactic charts by powerful psychic wards. Every single Grey Knight is a potent psyker. Their recruitment is a gauntlet of unimaginable trials, designed to find not just the strongest wills, but the purest souls. From the moment of their induction, their minds are sealed against the temptations of the warp. They are taught a singular truth: they are the hammer that will shatter the darkness. In 10,000 years, not one has ever fallen to chaos. It is a record without equal in the Imperium. Their very existence is a secret known only to a handful outside the Inquisition. To see a Grey Knight and live is a rarity reserved for their most trusted allies. More often, any Imperial citizen or soldier who witnesses their arrival is mind-wiped or executed after the battle to preserve the secret. They are ghosts, silver-armored angels of death who appear only at the brink of damnation. Their war gear reflects their sacred duty. Their silver armor is inscribed with hexagrammatic wards and runes of banishment, each piece a holy relic painstakingly crafted to resist warp-based attacks. Their standard-issue weapon is the Nemesis Force weapon, a sword, halberd, or hammer that channels the Grey Knight's own psychic power, making it capable of striking down a demon permanently, severing its connection to the material world and banishing it back to the warp. Their bolters fire PSYK-out rounds, missiles filled with the ashes of saints and other psychically reactive materials that are anathema to warp entities. The most powerful among them are the Justicars and Brotherhood champions, but even they answer to the 8 mighty Grand Masters who lead the chapter. And above them all stands the Supreme Grand Master, a figure of near-mythical status who carries the burden of the chapter's 10 millennia war. The mining world of Vanith was rich in promethium, a vital world. But the reports that reached Inquisitor Valerius of the Ordo Malleus were not of production quotas. They spoke of miracles. A preacher in the lower hive whose touch could heal the sick. Wells of oil that had turned to pure, clean water. The populace saw it as a blessing. Valerius knew it for what it was: the touch of Tsench, the changer of ways, a power that twists reality for its own inscrutable ends. He arrived alone, a pilgrim in ragged robes. He found not a raging cult, but a city of fervent, joyful believers. The preacher, a man named Elian, held court in a refurbished refinery, his words weaving visions of a glorious, changing future. Valerius felt the psychic pressure in the air, a cloying sweetness that promised everything and demanded nothing but faith. He knew Elian was not the source, he was a conduit, a puppet. The true danger was deeper. Valerius sent the coded astropathic signal. He did not request the guard. He did not call for exterminatus. He called for the 4th Brotherhood of the Grey Knights. They came in a single unmarked strike cruiser, descending upon the hive's upper spires in thunderous silence. There were 20 of them, their silver armor gleaming against the soot-stained rockcrete. Valerius met them at the landing zone. The Justicar, a warrior named Arvin, did not speak. He simply nodded, his helmeted gaze sweeping over the city, seeing the psychic corruption that hung over it like a glittering, poisonous web. The Grey Knights moved through the ecstatic crowds like ghosts. The citizens, touched by the warp, saw them not as saviors but as monstrous, silver demons come to end their paradise. They attacked with tools and bare hands, their minds too addled to feel fear. The knights did not slow. Their force weapons flashed, not to kill the citizens, but to disrupt the psychic control that held them. They were a tide of certainty in a sea of delusion. They fought their way to the refinery where Elian awaited them, his form now swollen with borrowed power, his eyes burning with stolen light. "We are being improved," he shrieked, reality warping around him, the air turning to crystal and then to flame. Justicar Arvin stepped forward. "There is no improvement in damnation," he stated, his voice a flat, psychic resonance that cut through the din. He raised his nemesis demon hammer. The battle was not of bullets and blades alone. It was a war of wills. Elian, now a puppet for its ancient horror, hurled bolts of raw change and webs of lies that could unravel a mind. Arvin stood firm, his will an unbreakable bastion, the aegis of the knights forming a shimmering dome against the assault. He advanced, each step a prayer, each word of banishment a hammer blow against the demonic presence. He did not strike to kill Elian. He struck to sever the connection. The demon hammer, wreathed in psychic fire, slammed into the preacher's chest. There was a sound like shattering glass and a dying scream that came from 1,000 throats at once. The warp energy fled and Elian collapsed, a withered, empty husk. The miracles ceased. The water turned back to oil. The healed found their ailments returned. The city descended into riots and despair. The Grey Knights departed as silently as they arrived. Inquisitor Valerius remained. His work was not done. He had to orchestrate a cover story, an industrial disaster, a viral outbreak, anything but the truth. Then he would begin the long, grim process of determining how many of the population had been too deeply touched, and had to be purged to ensure the taint was gone. The demon was banished, but the cost, as always, was measured in souls. The unseen war had been won, but only this single bloody battle. If the Ordo Malleus fights the enemy within and beyond, the Ordo Xenos faces the enemy without. The galaxy is not humanity's alone. It is a hostile ecosystem teeming with alien life, each species a potential rival, a predator, or an extinction-level event. The mandate of the Ordo Xenos is to investigate, analyze, and ultimately, eliminate these threats. They are the shield against the foreign, the unknown, and the utterly inimical. Their work is a constant calculus of risk. Not every Xenos species warrants immediate annihilation. Some are deemed too primitive to be a threat, their worlds marked for eventual compliance or extermination when the Imperium's resources allow. Others are too powerful to confront directly, requiring centuries of observation and containment. But for the major Xenos powers, the ones capable of challenging humanity's dominion, the Ordo Xenos maintains a state of eternal vigilant war. They are the keepers of the lore of the alien. Inquisitors of this Ordo are often brilliant xenologists and biologists, their minds repositories of forbidden knowledge about alien physiology, psychology, and technology. They understand that the Xenos threat is not always a charging horde. It can be a subtle whisper, a technological temptation, or a biological time bomb. The Ordo Xenos categorizes and prioritizes, but several races demand their constant and undivided attention. The Tyranids, the Great Devourer. This is not a race in any conventional sense. It is a galaxy-spanning hive mind of biomechanical organisms, driven by a single overwhelming imperative, to consume all biomass. Where the Tyranids pass, worlds are left as barren, lifeless rocks. Their fleets blot out the stars, and their ground forces are a nightmarish tide of claws, talons, and symbiotic weaponry. They are the ultimate predator, and they represent an existential threat to all life, not just humanity. The Ordo Xenos studies their hive fleet tendrils, their genestealer cult vanguards, and seeks any possible weakness in a foe that has no diplomats, no negotiators, and no desire but to feed. The Orcs, a fungal-based, warlike species created in a lost age as a biological weapon. The Orcs are a perpetual, grinding problem. They live for war, and their physiology means they spread like a plague. A single Orc spore left on a world can, given time, lead to a full-blown whack. A holy crusade of violence that gathers momentum until it can smash sectors. They are technologically unpredictable, their ramshackle machines functioning through a form of collective psychic belief. The Ordo Xenos must constantly monitor Orc populations, culling them before a powerful warlord can unite them into an unstoppable tide. They are a blunt instrument but one of terrifying scale and resilience. The Eldari, Craftworlds and Drukhari. The ancient Eldari are a dying race, but they are dying slowly and with unimaginable grace and malice. The Ordo Xenos splits its attention between two main factions. The Craftworld Eldari are mysterious seers, traveling the galaxy in vast planet-sized ships, following paths of fate to avert their own prophesied doom. Their interventions are cryptic and often seem hostile to human interests. The Drukhari, their dark cousins, are a far more direct threat. Hailing from the nightmare city of Kamarak in the Webway, they are raiders who sustain their immortal lives by inflicting suffering and torment upon others. They are slavers, torturers, and masters of biological and psychological manipulation, striking from hidden Webway portals to harvest entire populations for their dark purposes. The Necrons, the silent, mechanical legions sleeping beneath the soil of countless worlds. The Necrons are an ancient, soulless race of robotic beings who have slumbered for 60 million years and are now awakening. Their technology is akin to magic, capable of manipulating time, space, and reality itself. They are utterly implacable, viewing all organic life as a pestilence to be scrubbed from their galaxies. The Ordo Xenos fears the Necrons not for their brutality, but for their cold, patient, and absolute power. An awakening tomb world is often a death sentence for an entire system, one that cannot be fought with conventional means. The Tau Empire, the youngest of the major races. The Tau offer a different kind of danger. They do not preach annihilation but assimilation. Their philosophy of the greater good is a seductive lure for disaffected human worlds, offering advanced technology, social order, and a place in a seemingly rational and progressive empire. The Ordo Xenos views the Tau with profound suspicion. Their mind control, their relentless expansion, and their willingness to integrate other species make them an ideological and political threat as much as a military one. A world lost to the Tau is not destroyed, it is subverted, its human potential turned against the Imperium. When analysis and subtlety fail, when the Xenos threat must be met with immediate and overwhelming force, the Ordo Xenos calls upon its chamber militant, the Death Watch. The Death Watch is unique among the chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. It is not a single unified chapter, but a brotherhood drawn from dozens, even hundreds of different chapters. Space Marines are seconded to the Death Watch for tours of duty, bringing with them their unique combat doctrines and perspectives. A Dark Angel might fight alongside a Space Wolf, a Flesh Tearer beside an Ultramarine. All rivalries and past grievances are set aside for a single purpose: the destruction of the alien. They are the ultimate Xenos fighting specialists. Their black, silver-armed armor is a universal symbol of dread for alien races. Their fortress monastery, the Watch Fortress, is a mobile base of operations located in the void, from which they coordinate strikes across the sector. Their greatest strength is their shared knowledge. In the secret vaults of every Watch Fortress are the Xenocepts, detailed records of alien biology, tactics, and weaknesses, compiled from 10,000 years of warfare. The Death Watch does not deploy in large armies. They operate in small elite kill teams, each warrior a master of their craft, equipped with the most esoteric and powerful weaponry the Ordo Xenos can provide. They wield Hellfire rounds designed to burn out the unnatural biology of Tyranids. They carry Xenophase blades whose shifting energy fields can bypass the phase-shifting armor of Necrons. They are scalpels sent to perform the most critical surgeries, beheading an Orc Whack. By assassinating its war boss, destroying a Tyranid hive ship from within, or raiding a Drukhari Archon's palace to rescue a captured Inquisitor. The agri-world of Solara Secundus was dying, but not from drought. It was dying from a metallic plague. Gleaming silver veins of an unknown metal had begun to spread across the fertile plains, leaching the soil of all nutrients and leaving a sterile, gray dust in their wake. The local Adeptus Mechanicus declared it a strange geological phenomenon. Inquisitor Halbrecht of the Ordos Xenos knew better. The pattern of the spread, the energy signatures, it matched fragmented, apocryphal records. It was not a plague. It was an awakening. A Necron tomb world was stirring beneath the planet's crust. He arrived at the Watch Fortress Eternal Vigilance and presented his evidence to Watch Captain Straken. There was no debate. A kill team was assembled. Brother Kalen, an Imperial Fist, stoic and unyielding. Brother Hawken, a Space Wolf, all ferocity and instinct. Brother Cassiel, a Dark Angel, silent and precise. And Brother Garen, an Ultramarine, the team's tactician. They were given the mission: descend, locate the primary tomb nexus, and plant a series of vortex charges deep within it. A surface exterminatus would be ineffective. The tomb was too deep. It had to be destroyed from the inside. The Deathwatch drop pod slammed into the dead earth near the largest of the metallic veins. The air hummed with a low, grating frequency that set their teeth on edge. They found their entrance, a vast, geometric archway that had risen from the ground, leading down into impossible depths. The tunnels were not carved, they were grown, seamless and polished. The silence was absolute until they triggered the first guardians. Canoptek scarabs, swarms of insect-like constructs, flowed from the walls in a shimmering tide of cutting blades and disintegrator beams. The Deathwatch responded with disciplined fire, volleys of bolter rounds and cleansing flames from a heavy flamer, turning the swarms to molten slag. Deeper they went, encountering the true soldiers, Necron warriors. Rank upon rank of skeletal robotic figures, their green Gauss weapons flashing, each shot designed to flay a target apart at the molecular level. Brother Hawken roared a challenge, his power axe severing limbs and torsos, but for every one destroyed, two more seemed to phase into existence. Brother Kalen held the line, his storm shield absorbing blasts that would have vaporized a tank. They fought their way to the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a pulsating green orb of energy, the tomb's power source. But waiting for them was the master of this awakening dynasty, a Necron overlord. It stood taller than the rest, clad in ornate, living metal, wielding a warside that crackled with dimensional energy. "It is too late, children of flesh," it intoned, its voice a dry rasp of grinding stone. "The long sleep ends. This world was always ours." The kill team attacked as one. Brother Cassiel's stalker pattern bolter rounds ricocheted harmlessly off its phase-shifting armor. Brother Hawken charged, but the Overlord moved with impossible speed, its war scythe parrying the axe and sending the Space Wolf crashing into a wall with a crack of ceramite. Brother Garen coordinated their attacks, identifying a fluctuation in the Overlord's personal energy field. "Kalen." His chest resonator. "Now." Brother Kalen lowered his shoulder and charged, a battering ram of faith and ceramite. He took a Gauss blast full on his shield, the energy overloading it, but he did not stop. He slammed into the Overlord, his own power sword finding the precise point Garen had identified. The blade sank deep. The Overlord shrieked, a sound of tearing metal and fury, as its systems faltered. "Now, plant the charges." Kalen bellowed, holding the writhing Necron Lord in place. Garen and Cassiel moved with lethal speed, attaching the vortex mines to the central power orb. The withdrawal was a fighting retreat, the tomb now fully awake and enraged. They barely made it to the surface as the charges detonated. The ground did not explode outward. It collapsed inward, a massive sinkhole swallowing the metallic plague, the tomb, and the entire Necron dynasty in a silent, voracious implosion. The Deathwatch stood on the edge of the new-formed chasm, the air clearing of the metallic hum. The world was saved, but it was a tomb itself now, its soil dead, its future extinguished. Another victory for the Ordos Xenos. Another world scarred to save the Imperium. Inquisitor Halbrecht marked the records. Solara Secundus was now a dead world, its fate a warning in the endless ledger of the alien menace. The most insidious battlefront is not in the warp or on a Xenos world. It is in the human heart. The Imperium of Man is an empire built on faith. Faith in the God Emperor, faith in the rigidity of its institutions, faith in the absolute righteousness of its own survival. But faith is a fragile thing. It can curdle into fanaticism, twist into heresy, or shatter into apostasy. The enemy within does not always charge with alien claws or demonic fire. It wears a human face. It is the neighbor, the preacher, the governor, the friend. Its weapon is a whispered doubt, a seductive idea, a promise of a better life outside the emperor's light. This is the domain of the Ordo Hereticus. Founded in the bloody aftermath of the age of apostasy, their mandate is to police humanity itself. They are the witch hunters, the rooters out of corruption, the guardians of the human soul against its own weaknesses. Their enemy is the heretic, the mutant, and the unsanctioned psyker. They understand a terrible truth. A fortress is most vulnerable when its gates are opened from the inside. Their work is a constant inquisition in the literal sense. They comb through planetary records, listen to the sermons of preachers, and monitor the genetic purity of noble bloodlines. A slight deviation in dogma, a new interpretation of an old text, a spike in reported mutations, any of these can bring the Ordo Hereticus to a world, moving like surgeons through the body politic to cut out the cancer of dissent before it can spread. The threats they face are as varied as humanity itself. The heretic. This is not merely someone who disbelieves. Heresy is an active, often organized, opposition to the imperial creed. It can be a cult that worships a different god, a political movement that seeks to secede from the Imperium, or a secret society that believes the High Lords of Terra are themselves corrupt. The heretic uses reason, passion, and often genuine grievance to lead the faithful astray. The mutant. In a stable human genome, sanctioned by the Emperor, mutation is a sign of spiritual and genetic corruption, often influenced by the touch of the warp. Mutants, those born with obvious physical deviations, are scourged, purged, or shipped off to die in penal legions. The Hereticus hunts them not out of simple bigotry, but from the cold certainty that the mutant strain, left unchecked, can doom entire populations to degeneration and attract the attention of darker powers. The rogue psyker. This is perhaps the most immediate and dangerous internal threat. A human soul touched by the warp, gifted or cursed with psychic power. Without the rigorous training and soul binding of the Scholastica Psychana, a psyker is a walking gateway for demonic possession. Their uncontrolled power can eviscerate a city block or tear a hole in reality. The Ordo Hereticus works with the black ships of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica to identify and capture these individuals, but those who resist or who willingly use their powers for malefic ends are granted only the Emperor's peace. When the time for investigation is over and the time for purgation by fire begins, the Ordo Hereticus calls upon its chamber militant, the Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. They are the only imperial military force permitted to have men under arms outside of the Astra Militarum and the Adeptus Astartes, a right granted by the decree passive that ended the age of apostasy. But the sisters are not merely soldiers. They are warrior women, the brides of the Emperor, their faith their greatest weapon. Where a space marine is a masterpiece of biological engineering, a sister of battle is a masterpiece of indomitable will. Their faith is not a passive belief. It is an active, palpable force. In the heat of battle, their prayers can manifest as actual miracles, shields of golden light that deflect bolter shells, flames that burn only the unfaithful, or healing energies that close mortal wounds. This is the power of the acts of faith, a manifestation of the Emperor's will through his most devout servants. To face them is to face not just an army, but a living, breathing article of faith. They are organized into major orders, each with a specific focus. The Order of our Martyred Lady is known for its relentless, vengeful assaults, seeking to avenge past defeats. The Order of the Sacred Rose embodies stoic, unyielding defense, their lines as immovable as dogma. The Order of the Ebon Chalice are specialists in hunting witches and demons, guarding ancient, holy relics. Their arsenal is a testament to their purpose. They wield flammers and meltaguns, the Holy Trinity, to cleanse the impure with promethium and searing heat. Their power armor is inscribed with litanies of hate, and their bolters are blessed instruments of deliverance. They are the fire that burns out the corruption the Hereticus Inquisitor uncovers. The world of benediction was a shrine world, a place of pilgrimage so holy that its air was said to be thick with the Emperor's grace. Its leader, the divine matriarch Elodia, was a figure of immense piety, her sermons broadcast across the sector. But Inquisitor Catarina of the Ordo Hereticus received a fragment of a different message, a stray astropathic echo from the world that spoke not of grace, but of a terrible, silent stillness. She arrived as a pilgrim, her rosette hidden. She walked the gleaming streets, attended the grand sermons, and saw the populace, their faces serene, their movements peaceful, their faith absolute. But Catarina saw what others did not: the absence of children's laughter, the way no one ever argued or cried or showed any passion at all. Their faith was a quiet, hollow thing. It was not devotion, it was apathy. She investigated the city's water supply, the distribution centers for the sacrament, a fine, dust-like ash that the faithful consumed. Her analysis revealed the truth. It was not ash of saints. It was a psychoactive compound, a neural dampener derived from a rare xenos fungus. The divine matriarch was not leading her people to enlightenment. She was drugging them into placid submission, stripping them of the very passions that made them human to prevent any possibility of sin or heresy. It was the greatest heresy of all, the destruction of the human spirit in the name of saving it. Catarina did not call the Arbites. She did not request the Imperial Guard. She sent a single, coded burst transmission. The response was not silent like the Grey Knights, nor surgical like the Death Watch. It was a thunderous proclamation. Ships of the Order of the Fiery Heart descended through the atmosphere, their hulls painted in crimson and bronze. From them marched companies of Sisters of Battle, their boots striking the polished streets in perfect, resonant unison. Their canoness, a severe woman named Valeria, met Catarina's gaze and received her target, the Grand Cathedral of Submissive Truth. The populace did not rise up to defend their matriarch. They simply watched, their dull eyes registering no alarm, no fear. The silence was more unnerving than any battle cry. The Sisters of Battle smashed through the cathedral's great doors. The matriarch's personal guard, fanatics unaffected by the dust, met them with crackling power mauls. The cathedral interior erupted into a storm of bolter fire and roaring flames. Sister Repentia, seeking absolution through pain, hurled themselves into the enemy lines with shrieking eviscerators. A squad of seraphim leaped into the air on fiery wings, raining inferno pistol shots down from the vaulted ceilings. Catarina and Canoness Valeria fought their way to the inner sanctum. The divine matriarch Elodia awaited them, not with a weapon but with a chalice of the dust. "You see the peace I have wrought," she said, her voice serene. "I have ended sin. I have ended war. I have given them the Emperor's peace while they still live." "You have given them nothing," Canoness Valeria roared, leveling her combi melta. "You have stolen their souls." The melta blast vaporized the matriarch and her chalice in a flash of sun-hot energy. The battle for the cathedral was over. But the war for benediction was just beginning. The Ordo Hereticus and the Sisters of Battle now faced their most difficult task: weaning an entire world off a spiritual narcotic, helping a brainwashed population rediscover the messy, passionate, and dangerous nature of true faith. It would be a generations-long project, a slow and painful rebirth. For the Ordo Hereticus, the burning is often the easy part. It is the healing that truly tests their resolve. So you see them now, the watchers in the shadows. The left hand of a corpse god, moving in the dark so that the right hand may continue its work in the light. They are not heroes. They are not villains. They are a necessity. A terrible, brutal, and absolute necessity in a universe that has sworn to extinguish the light of humanity. The Inquisitor is alone. They stand at the precipice, bearing the knowledge that would shatter a world, wielding the authority to unmake one. They make choices that would break a lesser being, and they do so not for glory, not for power, but for the single, cold, simple reason that someone must. They are the definition that in the face of extinction, morality is a luxury, and survival is the only virtue. They are the fire that fights the fire. The sin committed to prevent a greater sin. The damnation accepted to spare the species. They are the silence after the scream, the stillness after the storm, the final grim verdict on a galaxy of war. Look to the stars tonight. In the darkness between them they are there. Watching, judging, acting. Remember their burden. Fear their purpose. And pray you never earn their attention. The Emperor protects,